Hi, this is Ben Bosley, and I'm with Pinnacle Resolutions, um, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, Brian Miller. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great. Glad you guys could join us. Thank you. My business is called Green Mountain Resolutions, and I am a retired state police officer, so also former hostage negotiator.
Yeah.
And I'm doing conflict consulting now. So.
Yep, great. We developed this workshop to help people have better communication and better cooperation, and so they can work and live and thrive together, and help people become better team players too, in what they do. Some of the goals we have for today. These are the goals.
Yeah, so here's some of what we hope to achieve. So we're going to learn 5 most important conflict styles and when they're useful. We're going to gain understanding of 4 stages of conflict to navigate through it.
Yep.
How to develop a productive problem frame to get at the heart of the matter, and learn the easy 4-step communication process to resolve conflict.
Yeah.
Now, there's so many things that we could worry ourselves with today that our society seems like it's totally in conflict, and you just don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
What we're hoping is
a lot of just poor communication, I think, and
right,
an inability to express one's needs in a way that's going to be practical for people to compromise and work together.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that people will just pick out a couple of the most important issues that are facing you personally, whether it's in your family or in your workplace or maybe among those you live with in your community, and you'll kind of narrow your focus to how this could work with those particular things that actually matter to you, and we can saving the world to somebody else, because if the things that matter to us aren't resolved, then the other things don't really matter. So try to narrow your focus as you're listening to us today.
Yeah.
So the first basic conflict that happens is in our family. It's inevitable when everybody's affected by a range of stresses. That could be stresses right now. We're in the COVID pandemic. It could be that. It could be stresses of adult children moving home. It could be between husband and wife or spouses. So there's conflict in our family, and where you probably heard that the people we love the most, we often hurt the most, and so I think it's pretty accurate. So there's family conflict.
Mm-hmm. Every family's got it.
Yep. Then the next one is workplace conflict. So we spend most of our waking hours in the workplace. And so workplace conflict is inevitable because we all we come from different backgrounds, and we bring to the workplace what's happening to us at home. And whatever's happening to us, will manifest itself in the workplace. So it's really important to try to figure out how we can reduce conflict there.
Mm-hmm. And work together better as a team. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and ultimately get what you're after, which is a bottom line, or doing good for this society, or whatever your business happens to be.
Right.
And then the other little bit bigger is in our municipality or in our community. There's so many perspectives when we look across our diverse communities that we live in, that the right path is not always clear, and there's going to be conflict. So that's definitely one of the areas that is worthwhile talking about.
Yep. Particularly with the issues around civil rights and civil justice issues that we're seeing today.
That's right.
Yeah. So conflict can be defined in a few different ways. We can see conflict as 2 or more people having opposing ideas or ideals about how to go forward, or interests, they can be involved, family, or obviously at the office, and of course the community, how to move forward and solve problems for the future. Another definition of conflict is a battle for something desired or coveted, like money in departments, or in an organization like schools, or it can be money between people, or positions. People could be vying for the same position within an organization. And then injustice or indignity is the third way of defining conflict. People who think that they have some kind of socio-racial, economic injustice, or inequity. So not getting our needs met and mishandling conflict, we can see in organizations or family, people withholding opinions or performance in businesses, people holding resentments and ill will towards one another, people talking behind the person that they're in conflict's back and creating all kinds of triangles, sabotage, people not showing up to work, people performing poorly on purpose. These are all like covert ways of reacting. Bad mouthing is another way. Clinging, not changing, people bullying, people dominating other people to get their needs met, and then unfortunately in some cases even violence.
It's workplace violence, of course, has been a huge thing. Not so much right now with COVID, but
right.
And most of the workplace violence cases come from, quote, disgruntled employees.
Right.
And so it is mishandled conflict. If things had been dealt with earlier in that person's relationships, or, not always, but,
right.
but many times you could have avoided the violence, which will most businesses that have workplace violence case will not survive, and they'll go under, and people's lives are changed forever. And lawsuits, and it's worth managing conflict at the lowest level, because you literally can save lives and businesses.
Right. Without these skills, people could unwittingly be aggravating or escalating someone who doesn't, who may not have been thinking that they were going to be violent, but it was unfortunately escalated because the person who should have been handling the situation differently wasn't.
Yes.
Yeah. So we can then respond to conflict and connecting with each other to work together to get our needs met. And this is an opportunity for growth and creativity and cooperation. Again, considering each other's needs. And speaking of needs, these are the three primary needs that all humans share. A need for autonomy, bonding, and contribution. When we're talking about autonomy, we're speaking about an individual's need for individuality, independence, separateness, freedom from other people's opinions, and freedom to have their own opinions, space, privacy, self-determination. Bonding is we need to be in relationships, whether it's cooperating in organizations or in the community with each other to get each other's needs met. So it's a need for collaboration, acceptance, connection. And thirdly is the need for contribution, which is a need to have purpose and meaning, and achievement, recognition for the value we offer. So at the root of cooperation is, or peace is a me with you, or we mindset, that together we can cooperate and get our primary needs fulfilled. The root of all conflict is an idea that is me versus you, and only through competition and sometimes even violence, unfortunately, we can get our primary needs met.
Yeah, so it sounds like that the human, the animal, they were constantly trying to get our needs met. We need those three circles that we talked about.
Right.
But if we don't get them in an appropriate way, we're going to get them one way or another, and,
right.
because we need them really to function and survive. So if we don't learn how to get them the correct way, we're going to get them selfishly,
Right.
and that's going to hurt us.
People are going to compete, and they're going to,
So
be assertive, know, in what they need.
Right.
So that's going to move into your talk.
Yeah, so the 5 conflict styles, this is kind of our basic personality. This shows us what we kind of at our core. This is how we operate. So generally we think of people like, they're introverted or extroverted, and that's fairly close to this. But think about when you are in conflict with somebody, or there's something that's really making you feel uncomfortable that you need to do something. What's your normal response? Like, what's your go-to? Are you an avoider? Are you an accommodator, compromiser, collaborating, kind of like similar to compromising, collaborating, working together, or are you competing? So are you the one that has to win any argument, or it just have to be your way or the highway? Now, often we see like someone in an executive role in a business is probably has a competitive nature, and if he didn't or she didn't, then they wouldn't probably be successful in the position they're in. But you don't want to have that going on all the time. Same thing with an avoider or an accommodator. That person, may give in to the other person, but that's not always the right thing to do. So looking at where you're going to fall back when you're in a stressful situation is pretty important, and realizing that you can change what your conflict style is depending on the situation. But when you're under stress, you're going to probably fall back into your comfort zone. So you have to be aware of that and how you're coming across, and if you're really doing the best for yourself and others. So and you can go online and take tests that are free to see what is your conflict style as well.
The Thomas Kellerman test.
Right. Yeah. Right. They're the ones who probably started that. Yeah.
I would say that I fall somewhere. I think when I took that exam, I was somewhere around collaborating and compromising, which that was the dominant one. But then, of course, I think there were, like you said, you can have all of these, but there's simply, what are you primarily, and then in what situations would you? Generally speaking, though, I think I'm collaborating. What would you say?
Yeah, well, it's interesting for me. When I was in my law enforcement job, I would, I would definitely have to be more assertive. So I wouldn't say I was ever the competing, but definitely, collaborating, and probably pretty similar. At home, though, I was probably more accommodating because that's probably more of my just the way I was made. So, and then when I'm at home, it's like it's a de-stress situation. So I don't want to get in conflict at my home, because that's kind of where I get regenerated to go back. And
so you're a lot more cooperative and at home.
Yep.
And considering what other people might want to do.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. That's interesting. 2 different environments, 2 different styles.
Right.
So that brings us to the 4 stages of communicating in conflict. The first stage, or where many people find themselves to begin, is ignoring the conflict or withdrawing from the person. Simply giving, a lot of people call giving the silent treatment, not speaking, sharing your ideas, or it's very much people are distrusting one another. They have a very thinking me against them or you. As there's some greater cooperation and communication, or what you'll see is if there's not straight conversation, then there's a confrontation. And once you're in a confrontation, that could be anything from criticism to threats, blaming, challenging other people. Still not discussing anything really that any of the needs, still low trust, but there's communication. If both parties then can move beyond the confrontation, they can begin sharing their positions and why they have them, which would be their needs, their feelings. They can begin questioning one another, building more trust, cooperation. And ultimately, the ultimate goal is to begin problem solving and proposing solutions, and that would be the highest stage in the communication process of uniting and creating productive problem frames about how the folks can meet each other's needs together, and trusting that can happen, and then begin proposing solutions.
I like this graph because it shows at the bottom that as communication goes up and increases, the uniting actually is the benefit.
Right.
And same thing, the more cooperation that you're looking, the
Right.
better it is. So,
right.
And that's what we find often today is people just not communicating, or they're communicating through a faceless social media account. So They don't really get to know. They're only communicating. They don't even know who they're communicating with.
Sure.
And it's very one-dimensional. So where this shows the communication is more than just words. It's everything. So
yes, it is. It's and moving along after a confrontation, it's really both parties. There needs to be both people willing to go into a conversation, and have that trust, and then certainly uniting. And it is possible to, ebb and flow on this. You can go from conversing back to confrontation, and then all the way back to evading and ignoring one another until the next confrontation or time to talk.
Right.
So it's a fluid process. And then the goal would be to, move away from the confrontation and avoiding to having the conversation about each other's needs and values. Basically, in a lot of cases, it's people saying enough's enough. We're tired of arguing. We're tired of, just avoiding each other and avoiding the issues. And when that happens, then they can begin conversing. So you can see it as kind of fuel for moving forward. Fuel being, just being tired of arguing. So there's really 4 ways to respond. When we're in conflict, we can blame ourselves, which would be, taking the other person's message personally and blaming oneself. In this case, if John says to Gina, "You're being selfish," Gina could say, "Oh, I should have been more sensitive." So she's shaming herself. Second way is to blame others. In this case, John's saying, "You're being selfish," and Gina says, "You have no right to say that. I'm being always considerate of you. You're the one who's selfish." So she's blaming and guilting John back, basically mirroring him.
Many people I found, not many people, there's a certain percentage of people who will automatically blame themselves first. They'll just assume that there's something going on with themselves. So they may always apologize and always take the fall when they shouldn't do that. And usually that's people who have been either physically or verbally abused or, in their upbringing perhaps.
Right.
And so it's really important to look at, am I taking am I blaming myself for something that isn't my fault at all?
Yep.
I think of the someone who blames themselves is they're like watching a football game, and they're looking at the huddle, and they're thinking that everybody in the huddle is talking about them.
Yeah.
It's because they just assume the focus is always on them.
Right, and that they're the one to blame for whatever is going on, as if they're at fault.
Right. Exactly. And that's why we like to use the word contribution instead of blame, because if blame kind of connotates, it's negative. It's negative connotation. It's denotes punishment. So when we're looking to resolve a conflict, let's get away from whose fault it is,
right?
And to say, well, I contributed this, you contributed this, and so therefore, we're not moving ahead. So if you think of the relationship, that any relationship as a potluck dinner where everybody's contributing something different, and you get out of it what you put into it. So if you contribute something that tastes horrible,
So
burnt dish,
like
or
name calling, or
wilted
like
salad, to a potluck, it's not going to be well.
Yeah.
Where if you have a good contribution, then you're going to have more success. So you think about the contributions that you offer.
Right. So what could so I think with an interesting way of saying one of the we don't want to default into fault. We want to move away from fault, and what is the positive contribution? And you could say third way of responding would be sensing what we're feeling and needing in the situation, and in this case, in responding to John's statement, Gina would say, John, when you judge me, I feel angry and upset. She needs recognition for her efforts at being considerate. So she's focusing on what she needs, which is how she's contributing, in this case, her consideration, John. Fourth, we can then sense other people's feelings and needs by asking them, are you feeling hurt, John, because you need recognition for your efforts? So she's focusing attention on what's going on for John. So step one is begin talking about ourselves and our needs. And then step two is engaging in others about what their needs are and their values are in the situation. And then we're doing this, what we're doing is we're confirming other people's opinions, perceptions, that they matter. We are recognizing this is basically the basic respect that we can show someone in a relationship, that anything less than recognition would be invalidation, whether it's implied by silence or actually saying something hurtful. But recognizing we're saying you exist, your experience matters for you. It's acknowledging maybe a letter, saying I received your letter, thank you. That's recognition. Recognize that. When we're face to face, to be making eye contact or verbally addressing the person. A little more, a little higher confirming behavior would be acknowledging someone by saying to them the way I received your letter, and the way you're feeling is okay, or telling somebody in person the way you're perceiving this is okay. Maybe I don't agree, but I understand. And then the highest level of confirming behavior is endorsement. This is when you tell someone that you agree with them, that they're correct, and you support what they're doing.
So the four-part communication process, as we look at any difficult situation that we're going to have to address through a conversation, you look at first the observation, what's going on, what our feelings are, what the person's feelings are, what the needs are of the person, and then figure out what their request can be. So this is the four-step process.
Right.
So the first step is observation. So this is where we observe actually what's said or done in the situation, trying to take the emotions out of it. So it's what others are saying or doing that is meeting or not meeting our identity needs. But it's also just the facts of what happened.
Yep.
When you said this in a meeting, basically, it made me feel something. But you said this in a meeting, so that's the observation. Or when you did this,
Yep. So you're just basically repeating back what exactly what someone said or what someone saw somebody do.
Right. So an observation is not an evaluation. So an evaluation is saying, after an observation is, I saw you give $10, and the evaluation coming from me might be, we don't have $10 to spend, and you're too generous, or I have not seen you shovel. Another observation, I haven't seen you shovel the snow on your sidewalk and all this winter, and the evaluation that I might have is you don't take care of your property, where that may not be the case. So that's an evaluation. And so the observation is another one. You said you thought the formula was ineffective, and the evaluation might be thinking that you're not smart, you're stupid. Right. So trying to get away from the evaluation at this point, just make the observation of what it is.
Just the facts, like you said. Yeah.
Right. The next is the feelings. So this is because we're having these feelings, the observations present a problem for us. So it's connecting the observations to the feelings. So when you said this in a meeting, and whatever it is, I felt hurt, scared, irritated, angry. Right. So those are the feelings that we associate with that observation.
Right.
So the feeling fuels or energizes us to get our needs fulfilled, and this is that fight, flight, or freeze, or fright.
Right.
That goes in along with it. So the feelings are fuel when our needs are not being met. That are, these are the feelings that we'll have: angry, disgusted, afraid, surprised, sad, ashamed. So these are feelings that we're experiencing to make us know that we're in conflict and we need to talk about this. When our needs are being met, though, we will tend to feel peaceful, loving, joyful, proud, and trusting. And so chances are good if something is said at a meeting and our feelings are one of these, it's not considered a conflict, and we're probably not going to bring it up. Right? Yeah. So because our needs are being met based on and our feelings help us know that.
It would, our feelings, if there's no conflict, if we're having these feelings, then we'll just continue doing what we're doing.
It's a good day.
Yeah. So after we've identified what we've observed, connected what our feelings are about what we've observed or heard, we connect them to what we need, and then are we needing respect or understanding, validation, inclusion, independence? These are all human needs, and which we all share. And again, of course, we'll go back to autonomy, bonding, and contribution. Remembering those ABCs. So this is a picture of an iceberg. It's a great illustration of the difference between where the positions are and all the needs that could be going on underneath what it is we're saying we want to happen. Whenever we want something done a certain way, it's for a reason, and the reason is a need. It could be, again, autonomy, bonding, contribution. It could be safety, prosperity. These are so the tip of the iceberg is the position. For example, if someone says we're putting more locks on the doors, or we're getting a guard dog, or we're installing a fence, or installing an alarm. Well, really what's going on, the person needs safety. Some person doesn't feel safe, they need safety, they need peace, and those are all different ways in which the individual positions the individual is taking.
Yeah, I think like this is a classic for couples or families, is that someone will say the position like you don't care about me, or you don't
Yeah.
love me.
Yeah.
And then they're really not, they really maybe think that, they know that you love them, that you said you love them, and
Right.
you do say that. But because all of this below the surface is not being met,
There's needs there. that are
it's
underneath.
equating, it's equaling.
Right.
I'm not being loved, but there's a lot of little things there that need to be expressed. And so then the spouse can understand what that means when they say what the position is.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I guess, and also spouses can disagree on how to go about getting a particular need, like getting loved, or putting locks on the door. We're not putting locks on the door because we need to. We're going to get a guard dog, that kind of thing.
Right.
It's like those arguments can happen all the time.
Sure.
I'm sure they do. After we've identified our needs, we can then follow up with the expression of a specific request of another person that asks them to act in a certain way that'll help them fulfill your need in a way that's mutually beneficial. So a request is if the other individual, usually the request has a question. It's posted as a question, and not usually. If it's a demand, if the questioner then criticizes or judges how the person responds to the request, you have to give them an opportunity to say no. Is the difference between a request and a demand. And these are just some examples of requests and demands. Could you tell me what you just heard me say? That's a request. Again, as you see, many of these statements are, the ones that have a question mark at the end are requests. And, have demanding someone have more confidence in you, or show me respect. Those are demands. As opposed to something that is really specific, like, would you prepare supper every Monday night? That's a very specific request for action.
And it's also, wouldn't you say it's also how you word things? Because you could could reword, have more confidence in me, to say, when you speak to me that way, I feel like,
you feel upset because you need support or something.
Right. And, you could ask them why.
Right.
Why you don't have confidence in me, and I do need that.
Yeah, asking
that
a question.
Validation.
So it's a great way to understand, what it is you would need someone to do in the future, so they could help you meet your need for a request.
Right.
Right. But yeah, these could be. Also, I think it's in tone. In the tone that's, you could yell, "Would you prepare supper every Monday night?" And that could be a demand. But so if it's said in a way, again, going back to, is the person going to be criticized or judged if they say no? If they are going to be judged by the questioner, then it's a demand. If it's simply a way in which an individual gives the person the option to say yes or no, which would be the request. Yep. So this is our first case study, and it involves coworkers. In this case, Gina, she stepped into a new role as the community development director with Woodville Township, and John is the community health director. It seems to Gina like John's trying to impress everyone, appearing as a superstar. She feels frustrated with John's emails, which include ideas on projects that they're not even working together on, and it's bothering her. John is actually angry as well that Gina is not paying attention to him or responding to his emails. So this is the issue, the conflict, and in this case, we would say, John, the observation for Gina is, John, you're sending the emails nearly every day. That's what she's observing. John, his observation is, Gina is not responding to any of his emails anymore. So those are the facts. Gina, in this case, she feels frustrated and concerned that she's getting emails every day. John's feeling angry.
She could be feeling angry too.
Yes, she could be feeling angry. She could have multiple feelings going on. We could say in this case, Gina needs respect, and she needs boundaries. So John is sending emails every day. She's frustrated because she needs respect and boundaries. What's John needing? John's needing respect too. He's needing consideration and connection. So Gina is not responding to his emails. He's angry because he needs respect and consideration and connection. So after we've gone through observation, feelings, and needs, we go into the specific requests of the individuals. And these are open to many different possibilities. Again, it's in this case, we're going to say Gina asks that John show respect and boundaries to her by sharing ideas, we'll say in emails, only on projects that they're collaborating or we're collaborating on.
Yeah, that's a great boundary.
Yeah.
That she's, she needs the boundary, and then she's giving a request for the boundary, so that John's not essentially micromanaging or sending her emails and things that really aren't his responsibility.
Yep. Move that up there. John is going to request, in this case, that Gina respond within a couple of days to meet his need for respect and consideration and connection. So how would they potentially find a solution that would be mutually beneficial? We could say that John sends his ideas only on projects that they're collaborating, and then Gina will respond in a couple of days to those emails.
Yeah, and there may be a situation where John may have some trouble doing what he agrees to do, and then in that case, Gina maybe will, maybe for a little while she'll agree to, okay, I'm going to respond these emails, but I'm not going to do it immediately.
Right.
Or I'm going to ask for clarification, or did you really mean me to do this? So that there's some give and take even as they're going through the process of meeting each other's requests.
Yeah, that's great. That works. So here's just a little map of where Gina and John moved away from their positions to identify their needs and work together to create a new problem frame about how Gina and John could get their needs met simultaneously. And they use compromise. They compromise with each other. This is an integrative strategy to negotiation. They each took a piece in a way for, and
yeah, they did. They each didn't completely get what they wanted, but they came away with their basic needs being met.
Right, right.
Now we have a family dispute. In this case, the adult children come home for summer vacation or during the COVID pandemic to live at home.
Yep.
The kids are using all the amenities of the house. The parents or dad is finding dirty dishes in the sink, dirty laundry in the bathroom. The kids have been bickering back and forth about various things, but certainly this is one of them. Dad's feeling angry and resentful, and the kids are feeling stressed and don't understand what dad's problem is. So
this must be something that's been going on for a lot of people.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
So let's break it down. So what are the observations? So from the parent, the observation is the kids are living here and they are leaving things around. That's the observation, that they're leaving it around, and and then the adult children, they're saying, I'm being criticized for just living, and back off.
Yep.
So some of the feelings that the parents are having are, angry, resentful that
Mm-hmm.
perhaps that they have a nice home, and even though they like their kids, the kids seem to be not showing them respect or anything, and so they're feeling resentful. And the children, they can feel stressed because they're not happy about being home, living with their parents or brothers and sisters, so they're stressed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the need. So the parents' need is respect, it's consideration, and obviously one just cleanliness. It's they don't like living in somebody else's filth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't show
Right.
a child. They would need understanding that this has been stressful on them. They want their independence. They don't want to be told. They don't want to be kind
Sure.
of parented as,
Mm-hmm.
and they want respect as well.
Mm-hmm.
So then the parents has to come up with a request. So this is my request. So yeah, it's easy as don't do this, but follow up, cleaning up after yourself. If that's too much to ask, then perhaps you need to pay me some rent because you're living here for free. So that could be a request. It's like I will do it. I don't want to do it.
Do your clean up or pay rent.
Or it could be really strict. It could be you clean up or you're on your.
Yep.
You need to move out too.
Yeah, you don't have to give them the option of rent. You can just say, clean up or move out.
And certainly the parent has a lot of bargaining power there.
Right.
The child's request could be, work with me. I just need a little help during this transition, and I can't afford the rent, so I'm going to do what I can.
Yeah. Or if they could afford it, if they're working, because that may be one of the reasons why they're not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they may be too busy.
Yeah.
They may think they're too busy. So then some of the solutions that may come out of this are, basically pay a certain amount of money for housekeeping. Maybe the parents are going to hire someone to do laundry because they don't want to do it themselves.
It's an option, sure.
Yep. It's there could be various compromises or things that come up. So.
Yeah, it shows a real life example of how people can be in conflict under the same roof in families and identifying each other's feelings, needs, and finding a mutually beneficial solution.
Right.
Yeah. So in this case, they use compensation. They use money to compensate one another for the integrative strategy. Yeah. Right. So finally, we're at talking about a third case study, which is a city dispute. In this case, the town of Bolton has residents that feel upset and concerned that the name Confederate Park, this is the name of their park conveys an unwelcoming image of Bolton and its people, and they want to change the name. This is happening now all over the country. You just open newspapers and read about, or go on the internet. So this is actually from a real case too. So they believe a correct way to honor the past, the folks who want to change the name, would be remembering someone good about the history and not a rebellion. Other folks in Bolton are made anxious because they believe the Confederate Park name conserves tradition and history. So those are the players, the people who support the name change, people who oppose the name change. And in this case, the observation of the people who support the name change is that Confederate Park honors a rebellion. People who oppose the name change, Confederate Park conserves tradition. Confederate Park is the tradition of the park, and it also did support a rebellion that supported oppression. So the people who support the name change could be feeling what they say. They felt upset or concerned. I think that about the name. People who oppose the name change could be feeling stressed, annoyed, afraid.
It could also be people who support the name could feel, ashamed of,
They could be feeling ashamed. Absolutely.
their community has a
That the
mark
name,
that represents that.
right, right. So if they're feeling upset about the name, they could be needing, I think they said they did welcoming image to all people. They could be needing integrity, justice, right action. Yeah. The people who oppose the change, Confederate Park conserves tradition. They're afraid because they need conservation, a connection with their history is what they.
And they need to know, is this the only thing in our town that's going to be
Right.
renamed, or where does this stop? I think that's a question that's a need that they have, is to know exactly what does this look like,
Yeah.
and do you have alternative plans for
Yep.
other things too?
Yep. That's a good point. Is this a slippery slope to just changing? Now, the name of the recreation center, is it then going to change the name of all these other things, or whatever else there could be? Good point. So, what's one of the requests that people who support a change could be for their need for justice and welcoming to all? Could we change the name of the park to someone that is more in harmony with our values? Our values. I mean, that's pretty broad. Is it our, the specifically these people who support the name change, or is it the community as a whole? And if so, if it is the community, what is the community's values versus just theirs? But the people who oppose the name change, because they need connection with the history, they could request that the park's name continue to be associated with a historical figure, whoever that might be. So the question is, can they, if we were to find a compromise, it would be to meet both of their needs for welcoming image and connection with history. It would be to find the name of someone who is more in harmony with values and is a historical figure. And in this case, we're going to say that they agreed to call it Lincoln Park.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, they could either lean on the side of finding a historical figure that is that nobody has a problem with, like Lincoln,
right?
Or they could find something that has to do that their community has to do something to do with, like, now, that doesn't contradict history, too. So they can kind of, there's definitely a lot of room there for, I would say, compromise.
Yeah. I think that making it
collaboration,
the name, if nobody has a problem with Abraham Lincoln, and then that would seem like a good solution. But it could be somebody else, right? Yeah.
So when we make these requests and want to talk about these certain things, there's certainly ways that we can open up the conversation. So one way would be, here are some examples, there's hundreds of them, but I think we have different perceptions about what happened maybe at the meeting or the other night. I'd like to hear your thinking on this. So you're giving the other person the option to go first and say, okay, let's talk about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, tell me what you think happened.
Right.
And then, so that's a good opener. The other one is, I'd like to talk about, this meeting, the meeting we had, or
Mm-hmm.
the incident that happened, or this project, the project we worked on. I think we have different ideas on how to bring it to the shareholders or whatever. And therefore, you're talking, once again, you're talking a little more contribution than blame. So that's a good opener.
Yep. Great. Yeah. More openers.
I'd like to see if we might be able to reach a better understanding about Jim, might be a coworker that we've been talking about. And another one, I really need to hear your feelings about this and share my perspective as well. So you are asking the person to open up, really, to share your feelings,
right?
And then then you yourself will share your perspectives on the situation. So you're telling them, I'm going to tell you what I think, but first go ahead and tell me tell me what you feel and what you think.
Right, right.
So it's a good way to disarm
Yeah, yeah.
conflict in a conversation.
Great.
So if things get off track, like the little train,
Thanks.
in the business of mediation, we talk about reframing, and pretty much it's just, if you look at the picture, it's the big picture, but then when we use our fingers and make a smaller frame, we're now looking at just the mountain instead of the whole landscape or the cloud. And so
you're out of the clouds.
Yeah, so we do the same thing when we reframe, so we can look more objectively at the situation. So we go from perceptions to truth. We can go from accusations and judgments to feelings and needs. So this made me feel a certain way, and I need some validation, or I need respect. Also reframing, so we're not dealing with blame, we're dealing with contribution instead, as we talked about. And instead of using the word wrong, what's wrong with them? You did something wrong. You say, what's going on for you? So tell me about this. Tell me what's going on. So it's another way of reframing, looking at the same discussion using different words.
Great. So all in all, so our goals were to help you, in our social environment, mediation, conflict resolution skills are so important, and we, making the connection to these skills and your lives is what our goal today. Giving you the case studies and going through them, and we hope you can experience more harmony with people in your life and understanding, have less painful and shorter conflicts with them, and then increase the congruence between what you value and your actions, for better communication, cooperation, and thriving together. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, this was a great time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah. And
talking about things that matter most.
Yeah. It's